You didn't plan to become a criminal. You simply had an incurable addiction to winning. Fresh off crushing the CPA exam, you didn't just get a job, you secured a throne. A corner office on the 48th floor. A $50 zero signing bonus before your first day. From the outside, you were the picture of the American dream. But the dream had a price. The next 5 years evaporated into a blur of 80-hour weeks, stale takeout, and cold coffee. Somewhere between the sleepless nights, your education shifted. You stopped learning the rules of accounting. You started mastering the physics of how money really moves. You became a scholar of loopholes, an architect of Delaware shell companies. You realized that in high finance, legal and illegal are just a matter of paperwork. Then came the tipping point. A massive client was about to report disastrous earnings. The math was simple. If the news broke, the stock would tank and your bonus would vanish. So you made it a choice. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was just a few keystrokes. You nudged a number here. You pushed an expense there. Creative accounting. The result was intoxicating. The client was happy. The alarm bells never rang. You told yourself it was a one-time fix. But the feeling washing over you wasn't guilt. It was pure, unadulterated power. So you did it again and again. You weren't breaking the system. You didn't plan to become a criminal. You simply had an incurable addiction to winning. Fresh off crushing the CPA exam, you didn't just get a job, you secured a throne. A corner office on the 48th floor. A $50 zero signing bonus before your first day. From the outside, you were the picture of the American dream. But the dream had a price. The next 5 years evaporated into a blur of 80-hour weeks, stale takeout and cold coffee. Somewhere between the sleepless nights, your education shifted. You stopped learning the rules of accounting. You started mastering the physics of how money really moves. You became a scholar of loopholes, an architect of Delaware shell companies. You realized that in high finance, legal and illegal are just a matter of paperwork. Then came the tipping point. A massive client was about to report disastrous earnings. The math was simple. If the news broke, the stock would tank and your bonus would vanish. So you made a choice. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was just a few keystrokes. You nudged a number here. You pushed an expense there. Creative accounting. The result was intoxicating. The client was happy. The alarm bells never rang. You told yourself it was a one-time fix. But the feeling washing over you wasn't guilt. It was pure, unadulterated power. So you did it again and again. You weren't breaking the system anymore. You were playing it like an instrument. Until the Tuesday the music stopped. A quiet office. A senior partner. A file sliding across a mahogany desk. They didn't fire you, that would be too merciful. They froze your license and launched an internal review. It was a soft prison. You were trapped, unable to work, unable to earn, while the bills for your glass-walled condo kept piling up. Weeks bled into months. Your savings evaporated. You sold the luxury watch just to keep the lights on. You were staring at the ruin of your life when the phone rang. A number you didn't recognize. You answered expecting a debt collector. Instead, the voice was calm, professional, and terrifyingly polite. "I hear you're the guy who can make things disappear," the voice said. And just like that, the corporate ladder was gone. Your real career had just begun. The interview didn't happen in a boardroom with a view. It went down in the grease-stained back booth of a 24-hour diner, the kind of place where people go to be forgotten. The man sitting across from you was a ghost. No name, no smile, no small talk. He simply slid a cheap prepaid burner phone across the Formica table. He laid out the problem with clinical detachment. His client had too much cash. Literal mountains of it. But in its current state, that money was useless, dirty paper that couldn't buy houses, luxury cars, or legitimate power. They didn't need a standard accountant who colored inside the lines. They needed you, an architect of deception. Then came the leverage. "We know about the frozen license," the man said, his eyes dead flat. "We know about the internal review. That review can drag on for a decade, or it can disappear tomorrow. Your choice." It wasn't really a choice. It was a conscription. An hour later, the burner phone buzzed against the leather seat of your luxury sedan. A single text: coordinates for a storage unit off the highway. When you rolled up the metal door, the breath left your lungs. 3 pallets, shrink-wrapped, stacked waist-high with $20 and $50 bills. $10 million staring you in the face. Then the second message arrived 1 week. Panic hit you like a physical blow. You were a KP, not a criminal mastermind. But as you stared at the cash, a cold mechanical instinct took over. The panic receded. The math kicked in. The laws hadn't changed, only the stakes. It was still just numbers. You went to work. First, you called a discreet lawyer in Wyoming to commission 8 different LCs, empty corporate shells. Next, the banking infrastructure, 7 business accounts at 7 different institutions. But the cash was the bottleneck. In the banking world, $10 zero is the tripwire. Deposit a penny more, and a currency transaction report goes straight to the feds. So you improvised. You built an army of Smurfs, runners, day laborers, broke college kids who didn't ask questions. You armed each of them with $9,500 in cash. For 3 days, they swarmed the city, making over 1,000 deposits. It's called structuring. It's a felony. But when the last deposit slip was printed, the pallets were empty. The money was digital. Now you had to scrub it. Sitting at your laptop, you began the process of layering. You initiated a dizzying web of wire transfers. Wyoming paid Delaware for consulting. Delaware paid Cyprus for logistics. Cyprus wired funds to Panama. The money moved so fast, bouncing through borders and time zones, that the original trail dissolved into static. Finally, the masterstroke: integration. A pristine company under your name took out a loan from a private Panamanian trust, a trust that, unbeknownst to the bank, held your own laundered money. You used that loan to purchase a failing strip mall. The alchemy was complete. The dirty drug money was gone, replaced by brick concrete and taxable rent checks. The burner phone buzzed one last time. The client was pleased, very pleased. "Pack a bag," the text read. "The jet is waiting." You were blindfolded for the entire flight. The only reminder that you were moving forward was the dull roar of the jet engines. When the blindfold finally came off, you were standing on a ranch under an open sky, miles from civilization. The man waiting for you didn't look like a kingpin. He wore faded jeans and a polo shirt, flipping steaks on a grill like a suburban dad. This was El Jefe. He spoke softly, almost like an old friend. He said the strip mall was a good start, but it was thinking too small. "This isn't a gig," El Jefe said. "It's a promotion." From that moment, the title of accountant was dead. You were now the chief financial officer of a multinational shadow empire. Your world exploded in scale. You mastered trade-based money laundering. You had a produce company in Mexico buy $5 million worth of avocados from a USE distributor you secretly controlled. The avocados never shipped. The money simply crossed the border and was reborn as legitimate revenue. You bought a casino in Macau, the world's most efficient washing machine. You bought unknown paintings for cash and sold them weeks later for millions in fabricated appreciation. On the surface, your life was a montage pulled straight from Hollywood. A penthouse in Miami. A private driver. A Michelin star chef. luxury without limits. But beneath the silk suits you were rotting. You were a prisoner in a golden cage. Sleep became a memory. Under your custom-made bed lay a go bag packed with $500,000 in cash and 6 passports. You couldn't call your parents. You couldn't have real friends. In your world, intimacy was a weakness. People were just potential liabilities. Paranoia became your daily routine. Every morning you swept your car for GPS trackers. Every week you snapped your burner phone in half and started over. Every unfamiliar car parked on your street sent a jolt of adrenaline through your veins. Was it the FBI or was it the cartel cleaning house? And in the silence of your penthouse, you understood the terrifying truth: you weren't just an employee. You were the ultimate loose end. You were the only person alive who knew where every skeleton was buried. You had traded your soul for power only to realize that power was a trap. The door was locked, and the key was on the outside. The mistake was microscopic. It was the kind of error you would have laughed at 5 years ago. A simple typo. $2 million wired to Shell Company A instead of Shell Company B. You caught it instantly. You reversed the wire. You scrubbed the trail. You closed the loop. You thought you were fast enough. You weren't. A bank server in Cyprus flagged the anomaly. It wasn't a raid, just a routine compliance inquiry. But you felt the shift immediately. It felt like a hairline crack appearing in the bottom of a submarine. Your handler noticed the change before you said a word. The sweat on your forehead, the hesitation in your voice, the way your eyes kept drifting toward the floorboards where the go bag lay waiting. The end didn't arrive with sirens or SWAT teams. It arrived with a text on a phone you swore was secure: "We need to talk." 5 years had passed, but the diner was exactly the same. The same stale coffee, the same flickering neon, and in the back booth, the same man from the beginning. He told you the work had been exceptional. He said El Jefe considered you family. And then the reminder: family doesn't get to retire. But the world had changed. The feds were getting smarter. They were watching the invisible threads you had spent years weaving. The magician had become a liability, an expensive one. The man slid a plane ticket across the sticky table. One way to Dubai, a new passport, a new name, a consulting role in a country with no extradition. It looked like a reward. It felt like a sentence. "What happens if I say no?" you asked. The man just smiled, a sad, tired smile. Choice is an illusion you gave up a long time ago. That night you didn't go back to the penthouse. You didn't grab the go bag. You didn't look back. A black sedan was waiting at the curb. As you slid into the leather seat and the door locked automatically, the final truth hit you. You were never the mastermind. You were never free. You were just a number. And now you were simply being moved from one column to another on someone else's spreadsheet. The magician who made millions disappear had one final trick left to perform. You had to disappear yourself. Outro: the car fades into the night, erasing the last trace of the man you used to be. Somewhere in the world, $10 million is clean and untouchable. And somewhere else you learned the hardest lesson of all in this game. The numbers always survive longer than the people who move them. But this story isn't over, because money like this never stops moving. The question isn't if the next move will happen. It's who will see it first. If you want to know what happens next, make sure you're subscribed. Because once you see the pattern, you won't be able to look away.